In this lesson, I'm going to show you guys how you can take stem layers, and I'm going to give you a specific mixing approach to make your mixes sound a lot better, essentially by having better decision making when using samples and honestly any kind of music. This is going to be kind of my entire approach and philosophy to mixing. Okay, so I actually want to show an example of a track that I worked on that me and then one of our producers that works for us, Devin, who we work on a lot of songs together, we went back and did the song again, and it came out 100 times better, and it really showcases this example. So here's the first version I had. It was the vocal was cool, but the low end was very underwhelming. The drums were very underwhelming. I actually made it on a balcony. I didn't have like a proper setup, but anyways, it wasn't quite there, even though I knew it had a lot of potential and it sounded good. Then I'm going to play the version that me and him cooked up. So that was the first version, and now listen to this version. I'll go back and forth real quick just so you can really hear it. And by the way, if you're watching this video, this is the type of lesson that I would highly, highly recommend that you listen to in headphones. It could be Apple earbuds, it could be whatever, or even watch this lesson on your actual studio speakers, because I'm going to be talking a lot about the low end and specific details that you really need to hear. So I would recommend either headphones. If you're in your car, honestly, that's okay. Or you need to listen on your studio monitors. Okay, cool. So I'm going to flip back and forth just one more time so you can really hear the difference. So here's a good mix. Bad one. The good one. And it's crazy because I use the same 808 and doesn't even sound anywhere close. Same melody, same everything, doesn't sound anywhere close. And honestly, there was a few things that really played a big role in this one sounding better. So I'm going to dive right into it. So this is the version that I didn't think was mixed as good. And what I did was I went, into a melody layer. I found all the different individual pieces of this melody. So as you can hear it, there's a couple I cut out, but then I also used a drum loop. I wasn't really thinking much. I had this 808. And honestly, the song was cool as fuck. And it wasn't until we made the second one we realized how bad the first one really was. But the first thing I want you to know is how many layers are here, and do you need every layer to tell the story of a song? Because oftentimes, if you have a mix that's struggling to be loud, usually it's too busy and there's too much sounds in there. And the reason I'm saying that is because if there's no sounds in it, like if you play an 808 by itself, like let's say this one right here, it's by itself. That's probably the best it's going to sound, to be honest with you. Because at the end of the day, it's not competing with anything. I'm playing it by itself. It's not competing with anything. That's pretty much the best way that drums are going to sound, 808s are going to sound, is when you technically play them by themselves. So then the more stuff you keep adding in, the more crowded the mix becomes, and the more that when it tries to punch through, it runs into a lot of other stuff, and it ends up not sounding as good. So when it comes to mixing, oftentimes, this sounds good. And it even sounds good with the vocal. But the problem was you hear the reverb on the vocal, and there's honestly a lot of melodic content here. As you can see, there's 4 different layers, and that actually was the downfall of this mix. So the first thing I was going to say is that one of my big approaches with mixing is that can I take away something from the song and the song actually doesn't change at all. It doesn't lose quality and honestly gets better. So my first question is, can I isolate layers from this to make it sound better? And that's the first thing we did. So for example, you have this, and then I'm going to start muting layers and really ask yourself, not did something change or not, because something might technically change. What you need to ask yourself is it still good or not? Does it still the part that you loved about it, is it still there or is it missing? Okay, if it's missing, that's not good. If it's still there and you remove something, that means that item, that element of the song was not that important. So removing it is going to free up space in your mix, and that's going to make it better. And that's one of the best ways to get a better mix is actually by reducing. A good way to think about it is it's like a marble statue, like sculpture, right? They start off with a big block and they keep chipping away at it, and the sculpture isn't done until there's nothing left to chip away. It's not like, can we add more stuff to it? The artist works on it until there's nothing left to take away. And you can think about mixing in that same fashion. Your mix is done is when there's nothing left to take away. So real quick, let me really quick show you. I'm going to mute layers and just ask yourself in your own brain, did the vibe change or is it still there? Did it change? Like, really think about it. Like, yeah, there's a lot of extra melodic content there. But if I take away these three, those chords that's holding a lot of that emotion, that's a bulk of what's there. Because to be honest with you, this sound is very reverby. It's like, okay, I'm not saying it's terrible, but it was just adding a lot of extra noise. So this like truly cleared it up. Like this sound alone is much smaller in the mix than all of this shit, right? And it's stuff like that. Like, yeah, sure. So this 808. Okay, it's the same 808 technically, but in this song, it's competing and it's getting muddied by so many other elements. So I'm actually going to go ahead and switch over now and show you the other one we did, so you get a good idea of how simpler it is, but yet how much harder it hits. And don't forget, guys, you guys didn't even notice this when I was playing the original examples. See? As you can see, first thing, just this sound was enough.
Cross my heart, don't wanna die. Lost my love, I wanna cry.
So the big breakthrough with this song was only using this sound instead of using all of it. And to be honest with you, in terms of was it contributing to the overall song or not, at the end of the day, the thing that the rapper is holding on to is the chords. So as long as the chords were still there, we didn't lose any of the emotion of the song because the rapper was doing the rest with his emotional singing. So then when we stripped away everything else, all of a sudden, the drums were able to hit harder, the 808 was able to hit harder, everything was just able to come out a lot better. And that's one thing that really helped this mix. All right, guys, I actually just opened up this melody loop right here. Okay, so let's say if you were making this for a vocalist, the thing is that it sounds beautiful, right? Some of the best melody loops sound really great by themselves, but are they the best fit for, let's say, something like a placement? Or are they going to give you the best mix as every single sound truly needed? Or are you able to get still a great mix and a great sound by removing things? So in this case, you know, if I was trying to build something, let me first get some drums to go with it, just so we can hear it in context. Afro beats with a fucking vintage loop. Guys, I always use a limiter, and I turn down the ceiling specifically on these drum loops is because I like to work with the full drum loops instead of the stems every time. Like sometimes just a full drum loop allows me to move faster, but the snares are sometimes a lot louder than where I want them to be, even though the rest of the drums are fine. Using a limiter just peaks the big loud part of the snare. You can also just take an EQ, find where the snare's hitting, and kind of lower it. I found that that's kind of good, but I use this limiter a lot in this case. Cool, so as you can see, we kind of have a sick melody here, but if we wanted to have the mix maybe a little bit more open for a singer and something to hit harder, like one of the first things I'm doing is I'm probably going to start with less layers and slowly introduce more. Okay, so already I was able to reduce the amount of layers that I have. I turned down a bunch of the sounds too, so sometimes deleting it is a great way to remove substance from a song, but I also was turning down stuff, which is in another way removing from the mix itself, because if you had one sound blasted as loud as FL can make it, essentially, if you think about it, that's kind of like too much. That one sound would be too much, doesn't matter what sound you pick. So removing layers as well as turning down the volume on layers is just opening up space for the mix to breathe. And when I'm mixing sample layers specifically, I find that finding the right balance of the stem layers and what volume levels everything should be. And if you're introducing new vocals and other elements and you're remixing it to new areas, not everything needs to be brought with from the original melody. Sometimes you have to pick and choose which layers. And from a mixing perspective, finding the right balance of volume levels, what belongs and doesn't belong, can be one of the most important things for achieving a great mix when using stem layers. And the thing about this is that there's so many different sounds. We have this piano here. And then we have like this saxophone. And then we have these like beautiful strings. And an easy way to think about it is like, who's the main character of the beat? Who's the main character of the mix? Who's the main character of the song? Because not everybody is a main character. If you had a TV show with 40 main characters, it's not going to do that well, right? You can have different characters in a show, but usually there's one main character. And a lot of times that can be the same thing when it comes to a mix, right? And depending on how you use volume levels, you can change who the main character is. So let's take this loop, for example. Right? It sounds like the piano is like a dominant character, but watch what happens when I turn the piano super far down. I turn the saxophone far down, and I'm going to take this random background layer that, as you can see, wasn't even really normalized, and I'm going to turn that one up. And now I'm pushing that sound to the front. I liked it better when it wasn't the main character of it, but even if I were to go re-pull up the stems, yeah, so from the original stem layers, we also had this bell. I can make it like a lot louder, let's say. See, so as you can see, I can really change like how it feels. And honestly, let me find a different example to really show it off in a completely different genre. I think a good one is actually some more EDM style stuff. All right, so let me show you real quick. If I were to think about mixing this loop I found, look how many different layers are here, and look how I can change how the mix sounds entirely just by changing who the main character of the mix is. You see what happened right there? The main character was actually this piano, and then before that, it was actually this vocal, right? Was dictating a lot of it. Listen to how that vocal kind of really grabs your attention, and then it transfers like that main characterness to the piano. And that vocal, it's But then if I mute that, the piano takes over the mix. But as soon as I mute the piano, listen to how the synth lead becomes a main player in the mix. It's almost like the story of the mix just changed entirely, really just by separating the layers. So not only is mixing, in my opinion, something where you try to make something sound good, a lot of it has to do with taste and like, what is the flavor of your mix? What is by changing the mix, you change the story of your song actually entirely. So one cool thing about it is in that first example, I really showed how I kind of had the same song, it just hit way harder. But in this example, what I really want to show off is how you can change the story of a mix and really how it feels entirely, because this... And then watch what happens when I take that lead. Now this fucking drone just took over the star of the mix. So just the story of the mix can change so dramatically based on what layers you have. And this is one of the most important things when it comes to mixing these stem layers, because when I think of mixing, it's not necessarily just making it sound better, but it's like, what is the story of the song? Who do I want to make the main character? And how do I want this to really feel based on those decisions that I'm making in the mix itself? So even when you're using all our stem layers, it's not just like, oh, use a Cymatics loop, you're good to go. No. That is only giving you ingredients just by mixing, not even including all the processing techniques we've talked about in this course, all the different ways to flip samples, chop them up, do all the different stuff, not even with all that. Just with using volume levels as well as removing samples and including them, you're able to make a lot of different feeling sounding stuff. And essentially that's going to be a big part of your role as a producer and artist. Or if you're trying to, let's say, take these melody loops, and let's say you're an artist, you just want to make beats for yourself, this can be a really good way to like listen, figuring out what combination leaves enough room for you as an artist. Maybe it's just this, you know? Maybe you want that little lead. Maybe you don't. Maybe you want the piano. Maybe you want to get rid of that drone. Maybe you just want this little lead sound, right? You change the story of the mix entirely. And this philosophy is something that I've adopted and learned throughout the years of just trial and error, and realized that holy shit, mixing is not just making stuff sound good, but it's about telling a story. And when you're using all the different stem layers and stuff, you really can take a mix and make it sound 100 different ways, which is essentially different records. And how you mix is also like part of your sound as an artist and a producer. Like, yeah, guys, main takeaways from this video is that you need to play around with the layers, removing them until you can still keep all the feelings of the mix that you wanted, but free up a lot of space for your mix to sound a lot cleaner and a lot better. Just how I did in that original beat, we removed a lot of stuff and we were able to get a lot better mix out of it. And then the second thing, when you think about mixing different sample layers, you need to try to think about what story you're trying to tell and who's the main character of that story. Because as you guys saw, as I started to mute different layers, turn layers up and down, the story of the mix really changed entirely. And one small bonus tip is that if you're making stuff for singers or you are a singer yourself, the main character is not even in the show yet. The main character is not even introduced yet, which is that's going to be your vocals or somebody's vocals on top of this. So you have to build it in a type of way that leaves room for that main character to still arrive. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this lesson. The exercise for this video is very simple. You're going to take some Cymatics melodies that you already have. I want you to drag in all the different stem layers. Make sure the BPM is synchronized with the BPM in your DAW. You're going to drag them all in. And then what I want you to do is I just want you to use volume levels and pick different layers and try to create a brand new feeling song or melody out of your stem layers from a Cymatics melody loop. And your second piece of your assignment is going to be to actually go back into some of your songs that maybe you didn't like the mix on and try to mute different melodic layers and see if you can still have the same feeling song, but because you remove stuff, you actually are going to have a lot better mix. So those are going to be your 2 assignments for this video. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video on essentially how to get better mixes by making smart choices with sample layers. If you guys liked this video, it is actually a module from my free course, The Art of Sampling, where I dive into everything you need to know on how to make really incredible music by using sampling. It's something I've been doing for 13 years and I'm really excited. And by the way, there's exercises and download files. So if you don't want to miss out on really what this course has to offer, click the link below. It is all free. And if you like The Art of Sampling, it's actually a part of a bigger online music program called The Art of Music Production. So when you click the link below, you can check out not only The Art of Sampling for free and some of our free courses, but if you're interested, you can also check out The Art of Music Production. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video and make sure you check out the full Art of Sampling.